everyone, and welcome to the Aligned Wellness Podcast. I am Dr. Torrie Thompson, and this week we are going to dive into toxins in our home. I think people have this idea that things that are sold in stores are safe, and unfortunately that is not true. You have to be your own advocate and do your own research and find better alternatives. And unfortunately, as the health industry grows, what we call greenwashing, which is making products that are not necessarily healthy look like the clean, healthy, organic versions just by the marketing that they use. So I want to dive into these toxins that are hidden in our home, what they do and how they affect us, and what you can do to replace it. Because nowadays, the good news is that it is easy to replace. And as we learn more and more about how these things affect our body, we can find alternatives that don't. So, I think many people believe things that are sold in grocery stores and in our normal stores are safe and are tested. And unfortunately, again, I'm going to keep saying this because it is not true. We really don't test. We have a lot of products that are banned in Europe and in Asia and other parts of the world that we use very freely here. They've been linked over there to cancer and infertility and all these crazy things. But here, they're in our products. It's very easy to get. So when we're looking at things, I'm just going to talk about common things in the house. We could have a 5-hour podcast on toxic swaps, and I'm going to save you guys the headache. We're just going to go over the big guys. So probably one of the most important things to make a swap on is our water. Most people will either drink bottled water or they will drink water from the refrigerator thinking it's filtered. They may have a Brita filter, or even worse, drink tap water. What most people think is they've seen the city data that shows that their city has no contaminants in the water. But what they don't tell you is they're going off the legal limits, and the legal limits of these contaminants are extremely high. So what you can do is you can look on the EWG, the Environmental Working Group's website, and they will actually tell you what contaminants are in your water. The EWG has their guidelines for what is a safe amount, and you can see their guidelines versus the legal limit, and the differences are extremely eye-opening. But they're looking at what the data shows. What does the data show that small amounts of these toxins cause? So if you look at something like atrazine, the legal limit is 3 parts per billion. And the EWG guideline is 0.1 parts per billion. If you look at something like glyphosate is allowed to have 700 parts per billion, and the EWG recommends 5 parts per billion. Those are extremely different numbers. So if you're looking at your city tap water thing, they're going off the federal guidelines, and it's going to show that your glyphosate's in the range, that your arsenic's in the range, that all of these environmental toxins are likely within the range because the legal limit is so darn high. Many people then think that the refrigerator filters are going to pull a lot of these environmental toxins out, or their Brita filters, and unfortunately, that is not true either. They do not pull many of these toxins. So when we're looking in our water, most water is going to contain PFAS, so the forever chemicals, chlorine, fluoride, heavy metals. That's just the beginning of it. You can start to see the crazy amount of toxins that the cities have in them. And again, it's going to show up clean on your city report. You are going to have to use some sort of water filtration unit to pull these out. So the gold standard is going to be reverse osmosis filters. Reverse osmosis pulls everything out. So you have to have a remineralization unit on it. So a cartridge that adds the minerals back in so that the water is not just super acidic. If there's no minerals in it, your body will pull minerals elsewhere for it. So if you're looking at the EWG, their tap water database, Austin, where I am, has 14 contaminants over the legal limit. And a lot of these are 200 times the limit. We've got chloroform 22 times the limit. We've got haloacidic acids 104 times the limit. We've got several forever chemicals. We have PFHXS 2,300 times the legal limit. You've got TTHMs, and that's 200 times the legal limit. And when you start looking at different cities, many of them have 10, 14, 16 contaminants over the legal limit. So getting filtered water is crucial. I do not like people drinking bottled water because bottled water, one, there's no guidelines to how it was filtered. So often you're just getting either lightly filtered or some sort of tap water. And then the plastic piece. Plastics are a huge worry for many of us because we're starting to see all these microplastics in the system. And so we see that a lot of these plastic water bottles have BPA, BPF, BPS, some sort of bisphenol in them. And that will leach into the water if it ever gets warm. The problem is you can't control where that water bottle came from. Was it sitting on the back of a truck in Arizona before it got to you in the middle of summer and those plastics are already in the water? So I do not love plastic water bottles. BPA free is just a big marketing scam. It contains a bisphenol, just not BPA. It'll contain BPF, BPS, but avoid plastic water bottles. Once they've heated up, they will continue to leach into the water. So getting a filtered water unit for your house and then filling a stainless steel water bottle, a glass water bottle, and using that as your water, using a plastic water bottle in very rare occasions when traveling or in a complete pinch. But when you're home, really avoiding plastic water bottles and tap water and unfiltered water. On the note of plastics are huge. I mean, our society uses a lot of plastics. So when we're looking at plastics, this is something that I really want you to get rid of every bit of plastic that you can inside your kitchen. So the things that we look at are plastic food storage, like Tupperware. That is huge. You're usually heating food in it, hot food goes into it, and then it goes into the dishwasher, all leaching those plastics. Our plastic utensils, the plastic spatulas, especially the black plastic is notoriously nasty, and plastic cutting boards. Plastic cutting boards are, to me, the dumbest invention ever because you are literally cutting on them, and you can usually see someone that's had a cutting board for a while. There's all these knife scratches in it. That is plastic chunks that have been cut out of that cutting board and are in your food that you're ingesting. When we heat up our plastics from utensils and food storage, you're releasing phthalates, BPA, or the bisphenols. These guys are known hormone disruptors. And in the world we live in with hormone imbalances out of control, I think the plastics are a huge factor of it. The cutting boards, they do just shed microplastics right into your food. And we've seen that phthalates have been linked to decreased testosterone. We've seen the xenoestrogens mimic estrogen and cause estrogen imbalances. And it's not too hard. You can buy glass food storage containers. They can have a plastic lid. Just don't touch the food to the lid. You can get wood cutting boards. You can get stainless steel cutting boards. Wood cutting boards you generally don't want to put meat on. So I will use stainless steel or titanium to actually be able to throw it in the dishwasher. And then you can use wooden spatulas, silicone spatulas, things like that. But avoiding all the plastics in the kitchen is huge. Another thing in the realm of plastics is your Keurig coffee makers and anything with a plastic pod, right? So the plastic pod, the coffee goes in it, and what it does is it's going to push water through the plastic pod to brew the coffee, and so those plastics get into your coffee. Often it's usually not great coffee either, so you can go down the mold rabbit hole with that, but generally you are getting some sort of plastic from the Keurig. You can use a refillable stainless steel one. I'm not a fan of the Nespresso aluminum pods. The aluminum is covered with some sort of coating to protect from the aluminum leaching. And so I really don't like any of the Nespresso, the Keurig, any of those pod-like coffees just because of the toxin intake. You can get a French press, you can get some sort of pour over, or you can get a coffee maker that is entirely made out of stainless steel. You don't have any sort of plastics. The next thing, and people really get hung up on this, is air fresheners and candles. These guys are nasty hormone disruptors. They contain phthalates, formaldehyde, benzenes, all sorts of environmental toxins, and these VOCs have been linked to worsening asthma issues, respiratory issues, and disrupting hormones. They found in a Yale study that scented candles release more than 100 chemicals into the air. 100 in a scented candle. And many of these things are, again, hormone disruptors, massive inflammatories, all of that. So I don't do anything scented in our house. It is unscented cleaning products, unscented laundry detergent, all of that. And if we do, we'll use essential oils in a diffuser to, if we want to have some sort of smell. But we don't use candles. We definitely don't use Febreze, no scented cleaning products. All of those things are just giant toxins. I also am a big fan of opening our windows. So unless it's the dead heat of the summer, we try to get fresh air. And then we use an air purifier. So keeping your house with all of the rooms that you spend time in, having an air purifier running basically 24/7. So bedrooms, office, living room, and running these. I use Air Doctor, and Air Doctor will pull VOCs, mold mycotoxins, any of these environmental toxins out of the air to the best of its ability. That does not mean that you can actually go and burn candles and your Air Doctor is going to offset it. Doesn't work that way, but it will pull just kind of the natural toxic load out of the air. Then we've got our cleaning products. Cleaning products have gotten notoriously extremely toxic. They are going to have bleach, ammonia, quats, all sorts of fragrance and crazy chemicals in it. We've seen these associated with lung issues, with hormonal imbalances, with inflammation, possible carcinogens. And a study found that nurses that were exposed to quats did have higher asthma rates, but you can look up study after study over these cleaning products. And so, cleaning products are something that I think is the biggest greenwashing. You see these big brands get bought out, and things like Mrs. Meyer's and Seventh Generation that started with good intention now have some kind of questionable ingredients in them, like fragrance. And, when a company uses something like natural fragrance, it's an umbrella term. It's kind of like natural flavors. It means that about 80% of it has to contain some sort of natural either flavor or smell, but 20% of it doesn't have to. It can be anything. So you really want to avoid anything that's an umbrella term. Natural fragrance, natural flavors, artificial flavors, anything like that. And you can go a long way with using things like distilled vinegar and baking soda. I'm a big fan of Branch Basics. Their stuff is extremely clean. I use them for everything. Laundry detergent, cleaning, you name it, I use their stuff. But again, distilled vinegar goes a long way with cleaning products. Then we have our personal care. And as women, I think we get exposed to I know we get exposed to an extremely high amount of toxins from our body wash, our shampoo, our conditioner, our makeup. And back in the day, the natural makeup didn't work, right? It just didn't look the same. But now there's so many great brands. But the EWG found that 75% of conventional cosmetics contained hormone disruptors. And for most women, they're putting on 5 to 15 products a day. And so they're just loading themselves up with these hormone disruptors day after day after day. We've got all sorts of chemicals, and there's great apps that you can use that will actually scan the barcode of your product and tell you all of the hormone disruptors and all of the toxins that are in there. And then there's great products now that you can use that are just clean. So I'm a big fan of Primarily Pure. I'm a fan of Branch Basics. I'm a big fan of brands like Primarily Pure, Pacifica, Gabriel. There's so many clean brands nowadays, and they work really well. So it's not like you have to make your own makeup or, try to make your own skincare. There's amazing brands out there that do a great job and are free of the big toxins. Then we get into our cooking and our foods. And the biggest thing with foods is the source of it. People always love to say that organic is just overpriced marketing, but it is not. Organic means that it cannot have certain pesticides on it. Are there certain things that can be sprayed on organic? Yes. Are they nearly as bad as the non-organic? Absolutely not. Organic, especially if you're eating the outside of it. And look at the Dirty Dozen by the EWG. Every year they put out the 12 highest sprayed foods with pesticides so that you can make sure that you buy organic of those. I always say you have to look at your budget and see what you can afford. but try to get as much organic as possible to lower the pesticide load. We've seen pesticides linked to cancer. We've seen it linked to immune issues. We've seen it linked to inflammation, hormone disruption. These guys are nasty in the system. So eating organic when possible. And then, avoiding things like seed oils, canola oil, vegetable oil, sunflower oil. All of these things are high in the omega-6s, which can be inflammatory, and they can be very rancid due to how they're processed and how they're made. There have been linked to heart disease, obesity, liver stress. The thing that people get wrong about the omega-6s is omega-6s are not bad. There are natural sources. Avocados have omega-6s, eggs have omega-6s, but you want them in balance with an omega-3. So ideally, we have an omega-6 to 3 ratio of about 2 to 1 to 4 to 1. That's kind of where we ideally want to be at. The average American has a omega-6 to 3 ratio of 25 to 1, meaning the omega-6s are off the charts to a very low amount of omega-3s. Omega-6s, when they're that out of balance, are where the problem lies. And my theory on it is the excessive use of seed oils over the last 25 years. So it's all of your processed food, all fast food, most restaurant foods, even some of the health brands will use seed oils as the oil on their foods. And so we just have this insane amount of seed oil exposure rather than, using butter, avocado oil, olive oil, tallow, coconut oil, these natural, healthier fats. So when I'm at home, absolutely no seed oils. All of the products at home are no seed oils so that we have the flexibility of going out and not worrying too much about it. The next thing in the kitchen is our nonstick cookware. Nonstick cookware is problematic, especially once it gets damaged. And this is really in the realm of the forever chemicals. The forever chemicals, once those pans get scratched, those forever chemicals can leach. And then once they get really hot, they can leach. So the forever chemicals over 500 degrees start to leach. And when you're looking at the nonstick, yes, it's your nonstick pans, but it's also your air fryers and products that are nonstick cookie sheets and all that all can contain the forever chemicals that leach, again, when scratched or leach at high heat. So using ceramic coated, using cast iron, using stainless steel are going to be better cooking options. Look at your air fryer, make sure that it's not nonstick and that there's no plastic on it. Air fryers are a notorious way that we get exposed to toxins as well. And the last piece is kind of the hidden guys that we're all exposed to. So we have to look at, especially if you're living in a new build or you buy a bunch of new furniture, there is flame retardants on a lot of our furniture. And so sofas, our mattresses are going to have things on them that will make them fire retardant. PDEs, which is what is commonly used here in the US, is actually banned in Europe, but not here. And it's been linked to neurological issues and endocrine disorders. Dryer sheets are another one that can be very, very toxic. They can contain acetaldehyde, which is a carcinogen, fragrance, which again, we talked about, it can have a ton of other chemicals in it. And those guys, just an unnecessary toxic burden. What we'll do is we'll dry our balls with essential oils on them if we want to have some sort of smell on the clothes. But again, once you kind of go fragrance free, you don't really want a lot of fragrance on your clothes. It just kind of seems like a lot. And then synthetic bedding is another one. So we have often in the synthetic bedding, so whether it's your sheets, whether it's your down comforter, your blankets, they can have off-gassing of VOCs and microplastics in them. So going to organic cotton, bamboo, organic versions of the bedding to make sure, especially because you're spending 8 hours a night on it, you do want to make sure that you are getting the best possible, things for your sleep that you possibly can. So it's very overwhelming, I get. And so I always tell people the way you want to go about this is you want to first go at what goes in your body. So that's food and water. We want to make sure those are cleaned up. Clean food, organic, to the best of our ability, filtered water. Then what goes on our body? So that's going to be personal care products, so lotions, makeup, shampoos, that kind of stuff. So then clean those up. And then what's around your body? So that is your your candles and your dryer sheets and your cleaning products. That is the order. As you finish things, throw them out and replace them with new, healthier versions. And then things that you can do to really make a difference. Number one, get an air purifier. Put them in all the rooms that you spend time in and run them 24/7. Again, I'm a fan of Air Doctor, but there's Austin Air. There is Jasper. There's a bunch of different ones. You just actually want one that works. A lot of them have great marketing, don't actually filter. So you want some sort of HEPA filter. They're going to capture the VOCs, mold, dust, all the toxins that are in the air. Get a good water filter. So a reverse osmosis system is ideal. It's going to pull all the toxins out of the water. Just again, make sure it remineralizes. And if it doesn't, you need to do so. I'm a big fan of AquaTrue. That is what we personally have, or what I personally have in my home. Getting rid of all of your Tupperware, just throw it out. All that plastic Tupperware, toss it out. And those cutting boards, toss it out. I want stainless steel, or not stainless steel, I want glass or stainless steel food storage. I want, stainless steel cutting boards. You could do glass cutting boards. You could do wood cutting boards, but get rid of the plastics and plastic water bottles. Then looking into, non-toxic skincare and makeup and personal care products is kind of the last piece of the puzzle, as well as your cooking stuff. But it feels overwhelming, but again, just one step in front of the other, but really looking at what are these toxins, where are they hiding, and if you can clean up your home environment, it makes a world of a difference. The last thing I will leave you with is these guys, if you remove the exposure, it doesn't mean that the stored toxins that you've been exposed to your whole life have gone anywhere. So many people think, oh, I got rid of plastic water bottles, so I have no plastics in my body. And unfortunately, that's not true. These toxins can sit in our bodies for years and years and years. So even people that have cleaned up their lifestyle, we can run toxin panels and find these VOCs or plastics or these pesticides sitting in their system. So if you're concerned about it, you can run an environmental toxin panel and see what is actually in your body. So then, yes, you can, one, remove exposure, that has to stop. But two, can you detox these things out so you don't have stored toxins in your body? But again, it's very doable. Don't let it overwhelm you. It can be very, very doable. Just baby steps. What goes in your body, on your body, around your body. And before you know it, you'll be completely non-toxic in your home.